Boy, oh howdy, does it feel good to be a Chiefs fan. Once again, the Kansas City Chiefs with an absolute molly-whopping of the Baltimore Ravens, and I have some big picture stuff to talk about. I have some offensive stuff to talk about, and I have some defensive stuff to talk about, and this is just the beginning on coverage from this game. I will have multiple videos this week covering this game. Remember, guys, if you are here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing that I talk about on this channel, so consider hitting that subscribe button to stick around for more. If you hit the like button, it really does help me out, and let us get into the analysis. So the big picture things to talk about here are multiple. Number one, Lamar Jackson quit. Lamar Jackson quit on his team, and perhaps most importantly to Lamar Jackson's career, Lamar Jackson quit on himself. That game was borderline blowout, kind of blowout territory. When Lamar Jackson came off the field, there was still plenty of time to get back into things. You can tell me all you want if you believe that Lamar Jackson was in fact injured. I do not believe it for a second. You could look in that man's eyes on the sideline and tell that he was not there. This was perhaps the beginning of the end of the beginning for whatever the run is that the Ravens have. This is so Zay Flowers, for example, absolute baller, absolute gamer. You're Lamar Jackson, you know you quit. You go back into that locker room and you look Zay Flowers in the eyes. Zay Flowers, by the way, who is a guy constantly putting his body on the line. This is not good for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, you can say that the 1-3 record is bad for the Baltimore Ravens. 3 losses doesn't keep you out of the playoffs. 3 losses in the 17-game schedule, the extended playoff format, certainly does not keep you out of the playoffs. The Ravens would have to win just probably 9 more games during their season, something that we know the Baltimore Ravens can get on a hot streak and do. The Baltimore Ravens can absolutely go out there and just outpace most of the teams in the NFL. Once you add to this the dynamic that Lamar Jackson has quit, things could spiral out of control very fast. Lamar Jackson, now this game was one that is probably going to be overlooked in the course of Lamar Jackson's career because it is a Week 4 matchup. It was a Week 4 matchup between two teams that were sort of dwelling in the basement of their divisions at the time of the matchup. And it might ultimately go on that maybe Lamar Jackson does win a Super Bowl. Maybe Lamar Jackson does get some substantial credibility through breaking some type of record for a quarterback in the NFL. Yesterday, I was of the opinion, prior to kickoff at Arrowhead, Lamar Jackson will probably get a couple of rings. That's probably just the way things are going to work out. This seems pedantic. This seems silly. It seems I am making too much out of a nothing. Much ado about nothing. Right now, I would set the over-under on Lamar Jackson's Super Bowls at 1, and I would take the push because I do not see the fight in that man anymore. Can you imagine Patrick Mahomes? I believe at the time they were only trailing by 13 or 14 points, something like that. I apologize, I don't have the exact point differential in my head right now, but it was like maybe it was 17. I think it was a 3-possession ball game, but it was at the beginning of the fourth quarter that happened, right? Can you imagine Patrick Mahomes quitting with an entire quarter of football left to play? Patrick Mahomes didn't quit in the Super Bowl when they were down approximately 323 points in the second half. He said, Xavier, just run. I'm just going to get it to you. That happened in the Super Bowl. Refuse to quit like this. This is a Week 4 matchup when your team is on the verge of losing control of their season, and the quarterback said, never mind. This is a much bigger deal, I believe, than is currently being played out in the media. Much of the media still wants to say that Lamar Jackson was injured. Maybe. Perhaps. I do not believe that for a second. The Chiefs team that we saw on Sunday, I know the Ravens' defense was injured. Their offense wasn't, not until that game, right? I know the Ravens having a bad early season. So were the Chiefs, weren't they? The Chiefs that we saw on Sunday are a Chiefs team that can compete and can beat any team in the National Football League. The team that we saw on Sunday is one that will be the most dangerous team in the playoffs. Think of all the dangerous teams out there right now. The Bills, maybe. I don't buy it. Seems like we see bluster and fury every season from the Bills until. You want to say it's the Eagles? Now, I said this immediately following the Eagles game. You might not remember. I said immediately following the Eagles game that they look a lot like the Kansas City Chiefs from last year, constantly trying to catch up to their own season. That has become the mainstream narrative about the Eagles at this point. Look how much they resemble the Chiefs last year. Like they always forgot to do their homework and they're struggling to get it done in the passing period between classes. That's how that Eagles team feels. That's how that Chiefs team felt. The Chiefs lost to the Eagles. Would they have lost with this Xavier Worthy on the field? Would they lose with Rashee Rice on the field? I think these are very different games going forward. This is from PFF, a graphic here that we have very telling for this game. Total pressures allowed. The Ravens allowed 21 pressures in this game. The Chiefs just 9. The Chiefs only cashed those pressures in for 2 sacks, but that was against Lamar Jackson. Doesn't get sacked a whole lot. He's able to make a whole lot of mistakes disappear behind the line of scrimmage. The Chiefs gave up just 1 sack. Now, you could look at that and say, man, all that bluster and the Chiefs gave up just 1 fewer sack than did the Baltimore Ravens. But guys, the Chiefs gave up just 1 sack. The Chiefs, who last year, with that offensive line, went to the Super Bowl, seem to have fixed the offensive line. Yards lost on sacks, somehow Mahomes lost 6 versus just 5 for Lamar Jackson. Hits allowed. Lamar Jackson was hit behind the line of scrimmage 5 times. Patrick Mahomes just once. Hurries allowed. 12 by the Ravens, just 5 for the Chiefs. Unblocked pressures allowed. 6 for the Ravens, 2 for the Chiefs. This was that delayed spy blitz that the Chiefs ran time and time again. The Chiefs now have, if we're looking at the playoff picture, remember, the Chiefs started this game, or started last week, 8 days ago. The Chiefs were 0-2. And it looked like they were going to have to get in shape in a hurry in order to make the playoffs. But once the playoffs start, it's a brand new season. I think we all take our chances on Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. But you got to get there first. The Chiefs now have 13 games to win just 8. Staying on pace from when they got their first win. Remember, we talked about at that point, after beating the Giants, probably to make the playoffs, you have to win 2 out of every 3 games the rest of the way. Meaning that statistically, looking at things logistically, you could afford, quote-unquote, to lose next week. But if you win next week and you suddenly find yourself at 3-2, you have 12 games in order to win 7. And increasingly, the odds from there get easier and easier. You just have to start a streak, and you have to stay on pace. I think that the Chiefs will win next week. If the Chiefs that we saw yesterday show up, they will definitely win next week. Now, the final big picture note here. This was a 37-20 ball game. This could have been, if we had the kicking situation figured out, because it's obviously not Butker's leg strength, right? Is it directionality, or is it something on the snap and hold? The reason that I am tempted to say that it almost has to be something on the snap and hold is that we're not seeing any difference in Butker's leg strength, because he is still driving that ball through the motions that would allow him to kick a 65-yard field goal with the distance if he had the aim. We have seen zero change in the strength. So I think it might be something to do with the snap and the hold. Maybe I'm wrong. We have seen Butker have the yips before. This could have easily been 20-40. That's a blowout. This, really, were it not for the JV squad being on the field, could have been 40-13, which is about as big a margin of victory as you see in the NFL at any given time. Now, this was the most points I believe the Chiefs have scored since 2023. Something like that, somewhere along those lines. And it does feel good. It does feel good to see this come back. Now, offensive note. Here is something very big, if you ask me. Here is Kareem Hunt. Oh no, that is a terrible color. I apologize. This is... Let's see here. Here we go. Here's Kareem... Oh no. I apologize for doing this in... Oh no. I apologize for doing this in real time. Figuring this... There we go. There's Kareem Hunt. This individual right here, that's Kingsley Suamataia. This individual right here, that is Creed Humphrey. Meaning that you have Kingsley Suamataia, your left guard, on the right side of your center. This is the 4th down, 4th and 2 in, was the second quarter. You had Kingsley Suamataia upfield to the right of the center, getting that type of push, and ended the play all the way over here. This is the running back. Here's Creed Humphrey. There we go. That almost makes it right. There's 3 of them down there. But anyway, you have Kingsley Suamataia all the way to the right of the center. This is a very, very good play by Kingsley Suamataia, and it is something that I think he will be able to build on moving forward. Now, one of the things that I have to call out just from a visual cues element to this game, there was the play where Patrick Mahomes, just one of the most beautiful passes you'll ever see, lobbed the ball over the defender right to Travis Kelce. Roquan Smith was the defender, and that was the play where he ended up getting injured. After Travis Kelce popped up, you saw him do this, right? And it didn't make any sense. He got the first down. He got a couple yards after the run. He beat Roquan Smith. It was a beautiful pass. What is he doing there? I think what's going on right here, now I've got these new tools, I'm just going to keep using them. This motion right here, I wonder if what that is Travis Kelce recognizing the limitations of his age. There was no reason to be disappointed with that play, except that he was tackled almost immediately. Now, it was a good tackle. It was almost inescapable because Roquan Smith was so close to Travis Kelce as he made that catch. I believe what may have been happening there is that Travis Kelce is saying, a former me gets a touchdown there. Because I think he looked out in front of him and saw all that green space. I believe there was one safety in that situation left to beat, and he got tackled, in effect, from behind. Now, I don't think many people score a touchdown there because of how close that coverage was. But I also don't know that Travis Kelce knew how close that coverage was because Roquan Smith was behind him. Why mention this at all? Well, I mention this because if that is what's happening here, the Travis Kelce saying, oh, wow, my body is not responding the way that it used to. My body used to be capable of taking that play, as perfect as it was, all the way to the house. And maybe he's right. If that is the recognition here from Kelce, the reason for the panic, it makes me hopeful that we will see Travis Kelce during the course of this season change the way he plays a little bit. We have not seen Travis Kelce change the way he plays football. We have seen Travis Kelce's physical abilities deteriorate. This means that perhaps he makes smarter decisions, and I'm not saying anything negative about Kelce, but sometimes he is the bully, right? I'm going to catch the ball, and I'm going to smack you. That is what he will do from time to time. If he is not feeling his body respond to the way that he's trying to run his body, if he recognizes that, he can change that approach a little bit and be healthier later in the season. And we do need Travis Kelce, I believe, for the playoffs, as pedestrian a season as he is having to this point. What he reminds me of a little bit this year is Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster last season was really that security blanket for Mahomes. And we used to see Travis Kelce as the security blanket for Mahomes, right? And Travis Kelce was the security blanket for Mahomes that was a plus, right? He could catch the ball on the run, get a touchdown. He could outrun people. He could out-athlete people. He could bully people. Travis Kelce this season reminds me of Juju Smith-Schuster last season. Travis Kelce last season kind of reminds me of Juju Smith-Schuster last season, in that he's going to be available. He's going to be open. If you can get the ball in the right spot, he's always going to be open. But that's kind of where the play ends. And I think that might be what we end up seeing from Travis Kelce moving forward. Worthy is going to destroy NFL defenses in that mid-range. So, obviously, here's Xavier Worthy. Here's the football. Here's the defender who was charged with covering Xavier Worthy on that play. That's the player who was covering Xavier Worthy on that play. Xavier Worthy made him stumble and then fall before breaking out on the route. Now, I had talked in yesterday's video about the fact that I believe the mid-range was the real place where you had some opportunity versus the Ravens. I said that if you look at their previous game, they really got exploited in that or if you look at the Bills game, they really got exploited in that mid-range. 9, 10, 12, 15 yards downfield. That turned out to be true for this game. The Kansas City Chiefs, and we'll get to this in a moment, really destroyed the Ravens in that sort of range. But when we are looking at this play, you're looking at something that I think will be fungible against most defenses in the NFL. You're looking at something that will automatically get you several first downs a game if you have the patience to stick with it. Get back to a little bit of that in a moment. Receiving, here is the statistical receiving profile for this game. Xavier Worthy, 5 catches, 83 yards. Travis Kelce, 5 for 48. Hollywood Brown, 3 for 38. Juju, 4 for 36. Brashard Smith, 3 for 27. Isaiah Pacheco, 2 for 13. Kareem Hunt, 1 for 13. Tyquan Thornton, 1 for 11. Noah Gray, 1 for 1. Still confounding on Noah Gray's absence. But here we have again 16-yard average, 9.6 yard average, basically 10. 12.7, 9, 9, 13, 11. This is what the average receiving numbers from the Bills game looked like, where the Ravens ended up losing, right? So this is what we saw the Chiefs do in this game, and then you've got a touchdown here for Hollywood, you've got a touchdown here for Juju, you've got a touchdown down here for Pacheco, and a touchdown there for Tyquan Thornton, third consecutive game with a touchdown reception, 3 touchdown performance so far this year. 9 players with receptions on this page. 6 players with multiple receptions here, and there is still no Rashee Rice. And again, those averages, just like we talked about yesterday. This group was led in snap counts by Juju Smith-Schuster with 57. Xavier Worthy was second with 43, and Tyquan fell all the way down to 25 reps. That was one of the big questions. Royals did play, but he only got 14 snaps. I don't believe he had a single target. He did not have a single reception, as we just saw. The big question coming into this game was, what would we see with Tyquan Thornton with the other deep threat in Xavier Worthy returning to the field? Tyquan Thornton fell from where he had been averaging one of the basically highest snap count Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers down to 4th, because not only did Juju Smith-Schuster have more than him, not only did Xavier Worthy have more than him, I believe that Hollywood Brown had 34. So you're looking at him falling all the way down to 4th for snap counts by wide receivers, but I don't think that's any reason to panic. I think that the Chiefs had established something here, and they did not need to open up the field anymore. I think that if things tighten up against other teams, you're going to see Tyquan Thornton trot out on the field and just go grab one. You'll notice I made the entire preseason talking about Tyquan Thornton, making the point if he just has 1 per game. He did not. His reception here was 11. And when I say 1 per game, I mean one of those great big long 30-plus yard receptions. He did not have a 30-plus yard reception here, but it was a touchdown. Doesn't get any longer than the touchdown. So, I do think that while this was a step backwards for what we have been seeing from Tyquan Thornton, I don't think that it is any reason to panic that he's just going to suddenly fall out of favor with the offense. Now, rushing. You were led again by a non-running back. I believe you have only had 1 game this season where a running back has led the team in yards. Here it is Xavier Worthy. Isaiah Pacheco, a very close second with 35 versus the 38 by Xavier Worthy. But also Isaiah Pacheco with a 5-yard average. Isaiah Pacheco, you saw him go through the guard box. Guard, center, guard. Very, very well in this game. And that might be what you have to start seeing. Brashard Smith pops up with 4 carries, but only 9 yards, a 2.2 yard average. The one play where he really looked bad. He took a handoff from Mahomes and cut back against the grain and was hit at the line of, or slightly behind the line of scrimmage, managed to fall to the line of scrimmage. That was actually a good play. That was the right read. There was just a corner or a safety, I can't remember who it was, coming in hot that was completely unaccounted for. But had that player not been blitzing, that would have been a decent gain. That is also a read that you never see Isaiah Pacheco make. So it was a good read. It was good execution on Brashard Smith's behalf. It just didn't work out because of the blitz. Not a great day from the running backs, but you were able to move the ball on the ground. It did not feel like it, but there is a 118-yard total there. Now 38 of it is from Xavier Worthy, and another 5 is from Patrick Mahomes, and another -3 is from Gardner Minshew. But you do have a team that broke 100 yards rushing here. Moving on to the offensive line. That line looked good against a bad defense. Simmons gave up a sack. That's true. But it was the only sack the offense gave up. Jawaan Taylor, no penalties. So you had a slight regression perhaps on a statistical basis from Joshua Simmons, but you had Jawaan Taylor not grab a penalty, and that is making a difference here. So Kingsley was the only offensive lineman who played every snap. Obviously, towards the end of the game, a lot of players came out. You had Kingsley remain on the field. I'm fine with that. Getting him more work, even if it was just the final 3 snaps of the game, makes sense. Keep him out there, keep him active, make him look at a defense, make him actually make those blocks from the guard position. I do not fault anybody for... So normally, the reason I bring this point up, normally I'm the guy on this end of things saying, hey, rotate the offensive line, man. It's a long season. It is especially long for guys that are over 300 pounds. It is especially long for guys who are over 300 pounds and are playing 4 postseason games per year, right? But I'm fine with him being in there. On that note, Mike Caliendo played 10 reps in this game. Jalen Moore played 8 reps in this game. And Wanye Morris played 6 reps in this game. I believe at this point that a lot of those reps came in jumbo package situations. But some of them, obviously, for at least 2 of these guys, Mike Caliendo and Jalen Moore, came in the relief duty during this game. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, I have a couple of observations. Nick Bolton is the funniest pass rusher of all time. Point blank, period. This is Nick Bolton rushing the passer. There he is right there. You can see him. Rigid back, legs out in front of him, arms out flailing. This was Nick Bolton every time he rushed Lamar Jackson. Now, to his credit, basically untouched, right? Shot through that defensive line, that offensive line, and straight for Lamar Jackson, who eventually quit during this game. But that posture reminded me of something, and I couldn't get it out of my head. Daffy Duck. Tell me that these 2 postures are not almost identical. You got the arched back, you've got the legs out front, and Nick Bolton doesn't have it here, but all the time he had his hands out in front of him, looked just like Daffy Duck running. And while we're roasting the appearance of defensive players, I have to do this as well, because I never realized before yesterday that Leo Chenal looks like a professional wrestler. Leo Chenal in coverage looks like, do you remember in the late 90s when the ECW and the hardcore wrestling stuff probably got too popular? And instead of watching New Jack versus the Sandman in a steel cage with barbed wire everywhere, suddenly you found yourself watching Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan go at each other with aluminum trash cans. Do you remember those days where all of a sudden everything had to be a blood match? where all of a sudden everybody had to use weapons in the ring. You remember those days. If you were a wrestling fan at the time, you remember those days. Tell me Leo Chanel looks like he's supposed to be holding a football. Leo Chanel looks so out of place with a football in his hand. He looks like when Macho Man Randy Savage would be swinging an aluminum trash can. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be jumping off the top rope. You're supposed to be dropping a leg. You're not supposed to be holding a football. You're not supposed to be swinging an aluminum trash can. That's not the brand of football. That's not the brand of professional wrestling for which I know you. By the way, I got curious during this, so this is a bit of a detour. I hope you will indulge me. This, right here, this Macho Man. You have seen this meme, or you remember from your days watching football, this interview. Oh, yeah. With the sweeteners, the coffee sweeteners. Macho Man Randy Savage. With the sweeteners. You remember this interview, yes? Did you know Macho Man Randy Savage in this image is 35 years old? All of these professional football ages men. Professional wrestling destroys them. Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, these guys looked 42 for decades. And then they looked 70. So it's just interesting how that works. That is a 35-year-old man in that picture. The same age as Travis Kelce. This man, Macho Man Randy Savage, in this picture looks like he could have been Travis Kelce's father. By the way, got curious, so I looked up Hulk Hogan at 35. This is 35-year-old Hulk Hogan. Classic Hulk Hogan. That's exactly what Hulk Hogan looks like in my mind. That's 35 years old right there. Anyway, back to the Kansas City Chiefs. I apologize for that detour. The Chiefs continue to live and die by the pressure, and it is mostly serving them well right now. I think the big test of whether or not this will be the case, whether or not this will be okay, whether or not this will be sustainable, whether or not this can win a championship, is obviously Josh Allen. Josh Allen, a lot of those blitzes that we saw today that absolutely paralyzed Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen takes off. We've seen it 1,000 times, and for whatever reason, the Kansas City Chiefs cannot tackle Josh Allen. So, can these blitzes be effective against Josh Allen in the way that they were effective against Lamar Jackson? If they can, this is a championship football team. If they can, this team could cakewalk the rest of the season. And I mean that. I know. So one of the things that is getting a little bit overlooked, I think, by the media and by Chiefs fans after this game, that Ravens defense is bad. We can't expect to come out and score 40-ish points every week. But guys, they can move the ball like that every week, I think. They left a lot on the field, and they didn't take the same shots that they normally have been taking, and they do still get Rashee Rice back at some point. Now, I know there's a lot of driving to be done between now and a couple weeks from now, but I believe they will get Rashee Rice back at some point. And I believe this is my final point here. Nope, I got two more. In case you were wondering, Omar Norman-Lott did play in this game, but he just played 16 snaps, according to Nick Jacobs. The one time I think I did notice him might have been the reason he didn't play a whole lot in this game. There was a play where both Omar Norman-Lott and Chris Jones were double-teamed. And Omar Norman-Lott, it appears, right, you can't really tell on film, just stood there. Maybe he was stonewalled, maybe he was giving the effort. It looks, if that was Omar Norman-Lott, pretty bad. So that might have been one of the times where it was like, hey, get him out of the game. This is not good, and I don't have the time to coach him up on it right now. We have to win this game. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was one of these situations where it's just, hey, we're winning by a whole lot. Omar Norman Lott does still have a lingering issue with his leg. Maybe we just kind of take it easy this week. We don't need him this week. Take it easy. We'll get you a shot after the game, and we will need you against the Lions. And then finally, a note on the defensive backs. Now, obviously, there was a whole lot going on with the score differential and things like that, but Shamari Connor played the most snaps of any defensive player with 54. Jalen Watson played 53, and then you had Trent McDuffie down at 52. Very rare that we see defensive backs out-snapping Trent McDuffie, but gets him off the field for a couple reps. Whatever, right? So I don't think it is something we will necessarily need to follow moving forward with Trent McDuffie. But what it does tell us is that this defense is set on Shamari Connor and Jalen Watson. We have seen, now Noel Williams, I believe, had 20 reps as well. So in the absence of Christian Fulton, who, I don't know, Brett Veach curse is not going to play for the Kansas City Chiefs this year, those are players who are going to be on the field for this team. Josh Williams is listed by Nick Jacobs as having one defensive snap, and if the only snap he played is the snap where I saw him, that big touchdown run towards the end of the game that got the Ravens to 20 points, I think partially that was Joshua Williams' fault. Hard to fault a cornerback for a long touchdown run, but I think what happened was that once the runner crashed into the line, Josh Williams overcommitted towards the line, and by the time that the running back broke out towards the sideline in order to outrun the defense, Josh Williams was further upfield than was he. So here's the running back going towards the end zone. Josh Williams was here. So when he cut out, it was where Josh Williams should have been. So anyway, guys, that's what I have on the game review for this week. I will be back with lots of content this week. A rookie recap video, an offense of what we learned, a defense of what we learned, and I have some ideas for other things along the way. If you like this sort of thing, hitting a like button really does help me out. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, so consider hitting the subscribe button, stick around for more, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.